Hello and welcome to another episode of Adam's Kitchen on Trust TV with me, Adam Mani Angora. In this program where we do learn together how to prepare some dishes. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to prepare Eba and Okro soup. So before we dive into the program, let us go for a short break and we will be right back. Welcome back. To prepare this meal, we are going to need the following ingredients. First, we are going to need gari, which is a dried grated cassava. We are also going to use puree, which is a blended tomatoes, some ginger, garlic, and pepper, and some chilies. And also we are going to need some vegetables like spinach and ugu. We are also going to use a garden egg, salt, seasoning, and what I call 4 spices. Of course, it is a mixture of cinnamon, cloves, coriander, and rosemary. We are also going to make use of okro itself, which some people call as okra, red oil, crayfish, and of course protein, which is going to be a mixture of some lamb shank, some brisket bone, and also some beef. So let us get started. First of all, before I make the eba itself, let me begin by preparing the soup. While our soup is getting ready, then we can move on to prepare the eba. So I will first start my fire and then pour some amount of oil. It all depends on the quantity that you want to make, and then you can decide the amount of oil that you are going to use. So we will allow this oil to be hot. Then I will go ahead and begin to fry my puree. So as you can see, my oil is already on fire. Let me bring closer to me my spring onions, which I actually didn't mention at the beginning, but now you are seeing it. And also let me place down my garden egg and some fresh tomatoes, which I didn't put in the blending process. So my oil is getting hot, and then let me go ahead and cut the spring onions, which I am going to use a bit later. So as my oil is getting hot right now, I am going to add the blended puree and then allow it to fry for some time. So this is a kind of similar process with which you use while making a stew. So in a way, you can call it like making a sort of stew, before adding the rest of the ingredients and make it okro soup. So while I am getting this fried, I'll now go ahead and add my seasoning, some salt, and also some spices. And then allow it to continue to fry for some time. And now I will get my garden egg chopped. So with this being put in place, let us go to the next step, which is, of course, to get my okra grated. You know, okra soup is a kind of soup that traditionally is supposed to be slimy, no? So some people will use blender to get it blended. Some they will just cut it like this. Some they use mortar and pound it. But then I found it more effective when you use grater and grate it. It gives a much better result. At this very time, you see my crayfish will now be added to the mortar, and I will give it a little bit of pounding before I add it inside of the stew. Yes, it's now good to go. I'll now pour it there. And then my spring onions is now added alongside some chopped tomatoes. So you can see that the stew is getting fried and it's looking much reddish in color because of the red oil that we put. And this is one of the best way to make sure that your soup remains slimy, remains sticky, as opposed to using white oil. So at this moment, I will go ahead and add my meat. Remember, as I mentioned it during the introductory part of the episode, this is actually beef, some chopped lamb shank, some steak, some flank, and also brisket bones. And now I'm adding them all into the stew as it gets fried. So the water from the boiled meat will be transferred here, and we'll keep it for later use. And then I'll pour some here, and also I now have left some amount of water inside of the pot, but not much water. But before then, let me go ahead and first of all give a stir to my stew, and then I will now get it covered. Remember before, I took it off the much lower heat burner to the high heat one. So I will now bring it back here and give it a medium heat so that it can continue to cook slowly. Okay, and then with this small burner, I will put my small pot there and add my okra here. See, let me use the wooden spatula. And also add the water, because I can see that the quantity of the water I left in the pot is not much enough. So what I'll do is now I give it a heat. You can give it from medium to low heat. This is something that you don't want to cook well done. You give it medium to low heat so that it cooks slowly and then it maintains that sticky nature of okra. So we'll give it some time there, and I'll bring close to me the essential ingredient in making eba, that is gari. Okay, so I will now begin to get ready for making my eba, which I will use this pot here, to make it. But before I proceed in doing that, let us go for a quick break and we will be right back. Welcome back. In case you are just joining the program, you are watching Adam's Kitchen on Trust TV, where we are making eba and okra soup. So as we are now back, let's check how is our okra doing. So you can see that it has made a lot of progress And something really important to take note of is that depending on the level of fire that you put, some people would prefer to leave their pot open while they cook the okra. Some would cover it, but with a little opening so that the okra still be sticky and it draws, so for us, because the level of it is really low, that's why I did cover it, but at some point I did open it, like what you are seeing right now. See, it's already open, and you can see it has made a lot of progress, and with this I can go ahead and turn off my fire. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is to start the fire, with which I am going to boil some water for making my eba. And depending on the amount of eba that you want to make, that determines the quantity of the water that you put. And something really important is that no matter how small or water you put, eba is something that at any point in time, no matter how much water or how little water you put, when making it, you can always choose to add water or gari. So if it looks watery, it means you have the opportunity to just add gari and make it as thick as you want. If it looks really thick, then you can as well add some water as much as you want to make it consistent, with your desire. So our water is right here, and we will allow it to boil. And then let me come this way and see how far my stew is going. So the stew is looking fantastically good, and then I will now go ahead and add some ugu in it. Now this ugu, I already did cut it and then put it inside of freezer, so it's a frozen ugu, that's why it's looking a bit dark. And then after giving it a heat for some time, then I'll go ahead and add my spinach. Spinach cooks faster than ugu. This is why I don't want to add them together at the same time. So I will do this, and also my garden egg, I am adding it right now. So let's give it time to get cooked. So you can see that my water is getting ready. It has started reaching the boiling point. So I will grab my gari and bring it close to me, and also grab my stirrer and be ready, for the big deal. Okay. Remember, I said this water is going to be reserved for later use, and I think now it is the right moment that I use this reserved water. Remember, it is the water that I saved from my boiled meat. It's not just fresh water that I added. Very good. You can see now the water is getting boiled. Here we have another thing to explain. while making eba, some people would prefer to get the water boiled and then transfer it in a different bowl and then begin to add the gari and stir it. Some may choose to do in the way that I am just going to use. So for some reasons, I would prefer using this way to add my gari inside of the pot while the water is getting boiled, because sometimes you don't know the person that you purchased the gari from, you know, you don't know how properly it was made, you know. Yeah, so for health issue, you know, for safety, you know, I prefer this way, you know, in case of anything. So the, you know, heat of the boiling water will now get it killed. So I will now continue to sprinkle the gari while stirring it, you know, 300 degrees, you know, slowly, you know, looking at the quantity of the water inside of the pot. Then you will have now control as to how much gari you need to put inside of the pot. So with this, I'll now leave it this way and continue to, you know, mix my gari. You can always wish to add water as needed, and also you can always wish to add the gari as needed. And then I will now put my fire off and then come here and also add my spinach, and then give it a stir. So at this very point, I will now go ahead and add my okro. And then we'll maintain much low level of heat. So you can see that the objective of making this soup slimy is being met. See, it's looking sticky. See how it draws, and that is the best way, you know, to eat your eba with okra soup. I will now give it about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and serve the dish. So at this point, I guess we will go for another break and we will be right back. Welcome back. And in case you are just joining us, you have really missed a lot, but I'm sure you'll be able to catch up, whether on Trust TV channel 164 Star Times, where the program is being broadcasted every Saturday evening at 5 p.m. and also on social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. You can watch this program live, and also on YouTube channel of Trust TV. So here we are. Now it's time to serve our dish, and depending on how you want to serve it. Usually people would prefer a kind of better presentation. So for presentation's sake, I brought this glass, and then I add a little amount of water in it, and then I will now put my Eba inside of it. Now, like this, and then push it harder. Keep putting, to the quantity that this small ball will actually contain. And after this, I push it really well, push it, and then I'll bring my glass, and turn it over, and then see how we can get it off. Yes, here we are. And also, some people would like it, when they add the soup by the side of the Eba, whereas some would prefer to serve it, separate. So, in this case, we now have chosen to serve it separate. But also, I think it will make a lot of sense if I add some stew, by the side of the thing. Anyways, since we already added the soup in the bowl, maybe I can, forget about that. So here we are, yes, and it's actually ready for consumption. So this is it about this episode. But I guess looking at this dish, I can't resist, and therefore let me give it a bite. I give it a bite. Eba is much better when you eat with your hand instead of using spoon or something. So you can see, let me grab some meat and feel, the magic. This is a heaven on earth. Wow. It's really delicious, absolutely appetizing, absolutely awesome. And with this, we have now come to the end of the episode, and we hope to meet again in our next episode. Until then, I'll say bye bye for now.